A series of analysis videos on this cheap. It was less than $5 pre-government leech sucking / taxes. This is a cat, by the way. He's not the subject of this. Just got this. It's a Vibe brand or Vibe Auto. Just a cheap USB mains charger, and just doing a series of analysis videos on it just to see if it's any good. Although so far it looks to be a lot cleaner than that absolute piece of rubbish that I did that series of videos on a couple months back. Actually, more than a couple months, actually. One thing you've noticed is that a lot of this noise is by virtue of the fact that, again, I'm using a 100x probe. But the main switching frequency looks to be about 23 and change kilocycles. Also, this is under load. It's be about 550 milliamperes. And here's the guts of that Vibe Auto USB charger, and this is how you actually build one of these. Celastic goo, silicone stuff on the solder joints for the plug prongs, thick mains input wires, fusible resistor there, and also CLC input filter, which is a pair of 6.8 microfarad electrolytic capacitors, and two 1 millihenry chokes right there. It's basically just a mains, fusible resistor, SO4 package gray. It's bridge right there. Fairly interesting. Never seen one of those packages before, but again, I don't do a lot of surface mount stuff just because it's easy to repair. Then that lytic on the right, it's not covered up by that silicone blob. Pair of again, aforementioned pair of chokes, the one on the DC hot, one on the DC neutral, and then that other lytic on the left that's covered by that plastic blob, which is fairly common to see in these kinds of power supplies. It keeps stuff from bouncing around, especially in transit and in use. There's also that 1 in 4000 series rectifier there, probably not being used as a snubber just because those wouldn't be fast enough. And then on the underside of the board, there's this SO7 package single chip switcher, and that SOT23 device, as well as the diode right next to it, which might be a snubber diode. I'm guessing that device is probably, actually wait a minute, D1. That might be a potential reference. Yeah. Okay, so it is being switched inside, which again wouldn't be surprising. Also, this is using primary side feedback because the only wires going out to the output board are the transformer secondaries. And also, speaking of boards, this uses paper laminate and fiberglass hybrid material. It isn't as good as pure fiberglass boards, but it's also cheaper and still better than pure paper PCBs. So yeah, that's to be expected for consumer grade electronics. Let's see, and then there's just a Schottky rectifier down there. It might be an ultra fast diode, but I suspect it's probably Schottky just because of lower losses, and I think those are a bit cheaper. Then a pair of 10 volt 470 microfarad electrolytics. Those are XuCap branded. They're XuCap. So yeah, not the greatest, but not exactly flaming rubbish. I mean, don't think they're flaming rubbish. Never heard of that brand before. And this sheet of insulating plastic. That's like sticky tape, but with very, very thick plastic film. And that just separates these two boards, even though there's no sharp sides on this, and even though this was covered in insulating tape, the solder joints did poke a few holes on the other side, but that's just up against the plastic case in use because this side is right against this side when the thing's in its casing. So that was just touching the insulating plastic of the enclosure. So yeah, even though this did compromise the insulation there, it wasn't anywhere where that compromising would cause any problems. And there's just a couple of associated things on the bottom of this, like a pair of resistors there, one of which is actually a 0 ohm jumper, not a true resistor. That zeroing jumper just shorts together the two data lines and the USB jack, and the 2000 ohm resistor, which serves as a pull-up. Those are both 0805s, if I recall correctly. That's just what it is. The device that you plug into this will measure that resistance, and that'll tell what the capabilities of the supply that it's connected to are, because it's obviously not performing any USB handshaking, because it's not actually talking to any electronics in this thing. But yeah, as far as I can tell, this is vastly superior to that absolute piece of rubbish, especially because, and this is something that's really good to see, is that they have an entirely isolated secondary in the transformer, which I haven't done anything in that, but I'm going to be reassembling this and using it, and that kind of would also, risk of electrocution, warranty void, blah blah blah. But yeah, just seeing a completely isolated secondary board with a completely isolated secondary winding in the transformer and everything being handled by primary side feedback, which is, as far as I can tell, which is certainly what this uses, because there's no feedback loop from the output. So yeah, seems like a pretty decent thing, especially considering that this thing sold for $4.88. So by the way, this is how you design these things, if I haven't already said that.